Hey YouTubes, how you doing today? So today I want to address the subject about how people would say, well, I live in an apartment, I cannot grow my own vegetables, I cannot grow my own herbs, I cannot grow my own food. And I just want to tell you that that is not true. Even if you live in an apartment, you can grow. Now, I live in an apartment myself. I have very limited use of the outdoors, very limited use of, actually, I don't have any use of the basement as far as growing because that's tied up by other people. But living in an apartment, you can grow your own foods, and I'll show you exactly what I'm doing. And today's main subject is going to be on microgreens. So first, let's take a look over here in my sunny window. These are plants that I have started. I got my sage in the back. I got my lemon balm. Made a little bit of a mistake. I started my okra a little too early, so they're dampening off. But the good thing about it is okra stems and leaves are very nutrient rich, and you can eat them. So I've been eating the plants that have not been making it. That there is more hot peppers that I've started. Up here I've got some more sage and tomato plants that are going, and you've seen before my regular house plant. Over here I just moved my basil and some rosemary underneath this grow light, which is in a regular lamp, so that I can leave that on all night. This is an experiment that actually is starting to turn out well. I have actually found a couple YouTube videos that says that you can take an onion that was store-bought, that still has the end on it, and leave it in your fridge, and once it starts rooting, put it in water, and you'll be able to grow at least 2 or 3 more onions. So this is what I've done. This here is only about 4 days. Let me show you the roots on this thing. So there you can see how big the roots are getting already from just 4 days. This is almost ready to be planted in a container so that I can grow at least 3 or 4 more onions out of it. I'm going to wait till the roots get a little bit longer, and then also, as you can see here, this green, these are the onion shoots or leaves that are starting to come up. So I'll probably give this about another week or so, and it'll be ready to be planted in a container. So today let's talk about our main subject, which is growing microgreens. Microgreens are nothing more than the baby version of your regular greens, like your lettuce, your kale, your broccoli, your arugula, kohlrabi, and some other leafy green vegetables that you can eat. So you can actually start this in your house with a sunny window, or as you see up over there, I have just a regular LED grow light in a clamp light that's attached to one of my old photography stands. This tray right here is going to be harvested in the next 3 to 4 days. Microgreens, you harvest them when they get about 4 to 5 inches tall, which is usually about 10 days, and they start getting their true leaves. So this is almost ready to be harvested. And what I'm going to do with this is I am going to probably take half of it, of one tray, eat it as a salad right away, and then I'm going to dry the rest and grind them into a powder and create my own superfoods. That's one thing about microgreens, is the baby plants as they are much more nutrient than their mature plants, like you get your lettuce, your kale, and all that, because those have gotten to a point where they're mostly of water. They don't have the real, well, except for maybe kale. Kale is very rich in vitamins and nutrients, but like your lettuces, your broccoli as a microgreen is a lot more nutrient than eating a floret or a mature broccoli. So let's see how to actually plant these. So since my experiment worked out with the 2 mini trays, these mini trays right here were from Chinese takeout, and you can see the roots are starting to come through the bottom. That's also how I know that it's getting ready to be harvested. All I did was I poked a couple holes in the bottom, put a little tiny bit of soil, and sprinkled my seeds on top. So you can go ahead and use your Chinese takeout trays, as long as you have another type of tray on the bottom to actually catch the water, because you're also going to want to water from the bottom. So as you can see, it does not really require a lot of space, especially if you're a single person or maybe a family of 1 or 2 people. 1 or 2 of these will actually do you very well. And like I said, I'm going to eat half as a salad. They only last in your fridge upon harvesting maybe a week or so. So you actually want to go ahead and eat them up right away or dry them and grind them as a powder into a superfood. So since that experiment worked very well, as you can see, I'm going to do it on a larger scale now. So I actually got one of these trays that has the holes in the bottom, and then I have the tray underneath that doesn't have any holes that catch the water. These particular trays I'm not really that happy with because as you can see, they're already starting to crack here in the corner. These are the flimsy trays. I say if you can find either locally, preferably, or even online, the thicker ones that'll last much longer, I would say get that. Or use your Chinese takeout ones. So since I'm doing this on a larger scale and I'm starting a new batch, I can show you exactly what I'm doing here. What I'm going to do is I am going to go ahead and put my soil in. And I'll show you from one corner right here. What you want to do is you want to put your soil in, but you want to leave it probably just shy of the top. This way here, when you're cutting your greens, you don't get any dirt in there on your greens, so you don't have to actually wash them if you don't want to. I always say wash your greens, but if you're going to harvest it the way that I'm going to and you're not going to get any dirt on it, then you don't have to actually wash it. So basically what you want to do, and I'll show you real quick, is you don't really want your soil any higher than what I put it right here. You want to leave a little bit of a space, so that when you're harvesting, you can just come right along, cut along the top of this and not get any soil. So let me go ahead and fill this tray up. All right, so as you can see, I got my tray kind of at the level that I want it. And what I'm doing right now is I'm just going ahead and making sure that my soil is nice and even on top. If you notice, I am not compressing it down and compacting it. The reason being is you don't want to have your soil compacted. You just want to lightly tamp it down so that your seeds don't fall into the soil too far. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to soak this with water. So now when you're soaking this with water, you want to make sure to get this all nice and wet. As far as the type of medium, you can use a peat and perlite blend. You can use potting mix. You can use seedling starting mix. Some people have gotten a rag wool type of material at their like Home Depot and Lowe's and use that. You can actually grow your seeds on paper towel. It's just they're not going to turn out as well or as tall as opposed to planting them in soil because they need just a little bit of nutrients. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my seeds. It may say kale on it, but this package right here is actually a mixture of kale, microgreens, rocket arugula, baby spinach, and a little bit of lettuce that I had left over. So they're just kind of all mixed up in here. And I'm just going to give this a good shake so I don't have everything growing on one side. And you actually want to go ahead and spread your seeds kind of thick. So I'm hoping this catches it. You pretty much want to cover the entire surface. Unlike planting regular seeds, you don't want to space them out. And the reason being is because these are only going to grow within 5 days to 2 weeks, you don't want any mold getting in there. You want to have nice and thick. Okay, so I got all my seeds on top now. It's going to be kind of hard to see with the different type of seeds that are in here because of the color of my soil, but I went ahead, covered the entire surface with seeds. So now I'm going to go ahead and heavily mist the top. And the reason for that is I want these seeds to really adhere to the top of the soil and bind to the top of the soil. And it's actually the water from the misting that's going to make them germinate. Now, some people had said that you want to have a heat pad under this or someplace where it's about 80 degrees to get these to germinate really fast. My apartment in this room averages about 68 to 70 degrees, and I did not use a heat pad for the ones that I'm getting ready to harvest in a couple days. They were just growing right there. So let me go ahead and finish misting these. I want to give them a good misting so that the seeds really adhere to the top of the surface. The key thing you want to do after getting this misted is you want to cover them because they need darkness to germinate, kind of mimic like they're underground. So they need that darkness for about 72 hours, 48 to 72 hours. So I'm just going to take another one of my trays here and I'm just going to set it on top. And I'm just going to lightly press down on it just to make the seeds adhere a little bit more. Some people have suggested putting a weight on top. That batch, I did not do that. So, I mean, that's really optional. But there are some microgreens that actually do require weight. It should be like your wheatgrass and your lemongrass, which unfortunately I have not been growing wheatgrass or lemongrass, which are like very high in nutrients, especially if you're going to juice them. And that's because I cannot find the seeds in my area. I prefer to buy locally from smaller businesses. But right now, a lot of my nurseries have not geared up for the spring planting season yet because they concentrate on the larger varieties you plant outside, like your tomatoes, your shrubs, and everything. So these seeds, I had actually got them at Walmart and Ocean State Job Lot, which is a New England chain store. And I prefer Ocean State Job Lot because their seeds, when they get them in, they're always 40% off. So if it's marked like $3.49, it's really like $1.97. So they're like always 40% off, whereas like your Walmart and other places, you're going to pay the full price. As far as the brands, Fairy Moss and Burpee so far have been the best germinating ones with my experience. I have not tried any of the other growers, although when I lived in North Carolina and I had a larger garden in my home, I actually used to buy a lot from Gurney's and actually buy live plants from Gurney's as well. We're going to go ahead and we're going to leave this for about 72 hours. Hey everyone, so it's day 3 since I started the seeds. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at them and see exactly what they're doing. Now, as you can see, I've already flipped around my cover. I didn't want any more weight on the seeds since they've already started germinating, and I didn't want to put too much pressure and stunt their growth. Also, some of them were actually starting to stick to the cover and not sticking to the soil exactly. So let's take a peek, see how they're doing. Go ahead and remove this cover. And the other reason why I flipped the cover around is I also didn't want it compacting down and stunting the growth of the germination. So don't know how well this is picking it up, but if you look closely, you can see I got some greens that are starting to come up. They're still yellow at this point because they haven't had any light. So I'm going to go ahead and leave the cover for about 1 or 2 more days so that they really start growing up. Because at this point, they're really going to start growing very fast. So I'm going to go ahead and leave the cover. But first, what I want to do is I want to make sure I give them their daily misting. Because at this point, water is still very important. And then now I'm going to go ahead and harvest this batch here. Was going to wait a day or 2 more, but as you can see, they're getting really tall. And a couple of them are starting to flop over from the size that they are. So I'm going to take them into the kitchen and harvest them. Alrighty, so as you can see, these are definitely at the point of harvesting. Nice and tall, probably a good 4 or 5 inches. Some of them are starting to flop over from the weight. So just out of curiosity, I have my scale here. And what I'm going to do is I am going to go ahead and weigh how much these 2 Chinese food containers actually yielded me. And also It's just my wife and I, so I'm probably going to eat part of this as a salad now, and then I'm going to show you how to go ahead and quickly dry them and powder them for use in the future. Because of the lighting and not being in my studio, I went ahead and moved to a different table in my pantry area, and hopefully I have enough lighting to show you this process. I went ahead and I put these down actually on a plastic bag so I don't get my table dirty because of the amount of dirt underneath. And you can actually see the roots are starting to come through the bottom. So that tells me that, yeah, these are really ready to be harvested. You know, you got plants that are falling over from the weight. So it'll be interesting to see how much these two Chinese takeout containers actually yielded, because vegetables right now in the grocery store are very, very expensive. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and turn my scale on. Set my colander that I'm going to use to dry it out. And I'm going to go ahead and zero this out. Alright. So when you're cutting these, what you want to do is you want to cut above the soil line, because you do not want any dirt in here, even though I am going to go ahead and rinse it out. So you can either use a knife or you can actually use a clean pair of scissors at this point. So I'm just going to grab, and I don't want to pull because I don't want any of the roots. And I'm just going to go ahead and cut. Now the interesting thing is these will not grow back. So once I do this harvesting, these plants are done. So like I said, I'm just cutting above the soil line at this point so I don't get any dirt at all. And I did accidentally pull the roots on that one. Sometimes that's going to happen. This is why I always rinse it off once I do this. Like I said, these were a clean pair of scissors that I just cleaned before starting this process. You can use a knife, whatever works for you. I just happen to think it's easier with scissors. Trying to harvest as much as I can without getting any soil. Microgreens in an apartment is the easiest thing to grow. Doesn't matter if you're living on a farm, you're living in an apartment, if you just got a sunny window, although grow lights do help. Alright, so that one's pretty much harvested as much as I can get it without actually getting down into the soil. So the first batch gave me 0.8 ounces. Like I said, these are small batches. So now I'm going to go ahead and move on to this one. So I'm going to show you, I've got 1.4 ounces of green plus 0.8 that I had in there before would give me 2.2 ounces. That is a lot of greens just from 2 Chinese trays. You can imagine how much you would pay for this at a grocery store. And to show you afterwards, underneath, if I can lift this up, these are all your roots. This soil is pretty much done. So this is just going to go right in my compost bin. All right, so you can actually eat these as is. And since I cut above the soil line, I'm not opposed to doing this, but this is one of them. Definitely got some flavor to it. So let me go ahead, rinse these off. I'll show you that I'm going to make a little salad with this, and then I'm going to show you how to actually go ahead and dry these using a quick method, pound them down, and then I'll show you exactly what I'm doing to create my own pounded green superfood from these, because this is rich in vitamin C, A, different minerals, different other vitamins. Don't really name them all. I'm not a nutritionist or a botanist, but this is actually nutrient-packed food. All right, so I'm just going to go ahead and just give these a light rinsing off. just to remove any of the dirt that might have got harvested with these, although I was very careful to cut above the soil line. Alright, so since I'm going to be processing these right away, I'm just going to go ahead and dump them on a paper towel. Look at all those rich nutrients. So this mixture here was broccoli, a little bit of arugula, some different microgreens that are in the microgreen seed packet, like radish, a bunch of others. You can get all different mixtures of seeds for microgreens that are pre-packaged that have all different seeds in it, or you can go ahead and mix up your own seed packet using spinach, mesclun, radish greens, pea shoots, oily sunflower, which I have not been able to find any oily sunflower this year. Probably has to do with the supply chain issue that we're going through. So now that I got this all laid out on a paper towel, I'm going to go ahead and make a quick salad out of this. Balsamic vinegar is probably the best tasting. My wife just happens to have ranch on hand because she absolutely loves ranch, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to make this probably a little bit healthier than using ranch. Although ranch, believe it or not, is one of the healthiest salad dressings, especially if you're a diabetic, as opposed to some of the other ones that are out there. The only thing you got to worry about is this actually has 260 milligrams of sodium per serving, but it only has 1 gram of sugar. Some of your other salad dressings are very high, whereas olive oil, which is very, very nutritious for you, if you can get the true virgin olive oil. Here in the United States, that's questionable whether or not we're actually consuming real olive oil. But this has no sugar and actually has no sodium, and then also actually has good fats. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take just a little bit to eat as a salad right now. Put that in my bowl. Make sure that I'm getting varying types to try here. And like I said, I'm just going to make a small salad out of this because I really want to dry and save the rest and show you the superfood that I'm actually making out of this. Just going to add just a tiny little bit of olive oil on the top. Just enough to enhance the flavor a little bit. And actually just eating one of these various types, you do get the different flavor types. Adding cilantro. Ooh. I don't know what that was that I just tasted, but that was good. Adding cilantro to this would actually be very, very tasty. But I just want to go ahead and try the regular microgreens. Just going to add a little bit of black pepper. Alrighty, so I have my bowl here. I got a little bit of microgreens, a little bit of olive oil, a little bit of black pepper. Just go ahead and try it as a salad. So as you can see, makes to show you that I'm really doing this. That was good. This mixture has a little bit of flavor to it. Probably be a little bit better if I would have went ahead and added the cilantro. I'm just going to try just a little bit more with the ranch dressing, just to see how the difference of flavor. That one stuck to my finger. See how the difference of flavor with the ranch dressing would be. And I'll put a little dollop of ranch dressing on that. So in my bowl, got more microgreens with the ranch dressing, just to see how it actually tastes with the ranch. Oh yeah. With your favorite dressing, tastes just like eating salad, but it's much more nutritious. What I got going on right here, I don't know if you can see this or not, but this right here in this container is what I'm making as far as the dried superfood powder that you can put on shakes, that you can put on your yogurt, The green powder that's in there right now is moringa. You can find that on health food stores, your local CVS, drug stores in the health food section. And moringa is a superfood. Go ahead and Google it and look it up. It's a really great thing. The other great thing is matcha powder, which looks similar to moringa but has a totally different taste and totally different nutrient properties. I like to drink matcha cold with milk and then maybe a splash of vanilla just to give it a little bit more taste. But the problem is I'm having trouble finding matcha powder right now with everything that's going on in the world at the time of recording this. The only matcha that I can find is in tea bags for hot tea, but I like mine cold. But this is my own superfood mixture that I'm going to be making. So here you can see I got my moringa. And I'm going to go ahead and dry these and add it to my moringa. And I really suggest using glass containers as opposed to plastic to store this in, because as you can see what's happening here with the static and type of plastic, it's all sticking to the sides. But that's really like no big deal. I'm going to take a fresh paper towel because the other one that I laid everything out on is too wet for this process. So in my other video, I went ahead and went over the various drying methods. If you have a dehydrator, that works good. You can use their oven as long as their oven goes low enough to about 130 degrees, although the process is a little bit longer. Me, what I like to do is I like to just use the microwave while I'm still living on grid and have a microwave. This way here, it really only takes about 60 to 90 seconds to dry them. You do them short and 30-second blasts to check it. Yes, you might end up cooking it a little bit, but it's such a quick blast, you're really not going to change the nutritional properties. So I'm going to go ahead, put this on my paper towel, and then give it a quick blast in the microwave. I'm not going to show you that process because I've done that in another video. So some microgreens and herbs actually dry better than others. As you can see here, these really shriveled up, but they're totally dry and crispy for grinding down. So I'm going to go ahead and put these in my pestle and mortar. And now I'm just going to go ahead and give these a good grind. Okay, so to be totally transparent and honest with you, I will tell you one thing that I had to do. Microgreens have a very high water content because they are a leafy lettuce type vegetable as opposed to herbs. So I had to run these on the 30-second blast in the microwaves probably about 5 or 6 times to get them to a point that they were dry, that I could really start grinding them. Then I had to transfer them into my mortar and pestle, start pounding them, grinding them down. And I found that they were actually getting moist again because of the water content that was still in them. So I put them back on the paper towel, dried them again for another 30 seconds, blast probably 3 or 4 more times, to the point now that they are totally dry. And I will tell you one thing, when you dry them, it brings out the flavor more and seals in the nutrients and stuff. And the reason being is you're getting rid of all that water content. But as you can see out of that total batch, this is all that's going to yield. So it is going to take a lot. This is why spices and herbs are so expensive in their dry format, is because you have to grow a lot of them, because once you grind it down, you're only left with a little bit. So now I'm going to go ahead and finish grinding this down to a powder. Now that's totally dry. You want to make sure every single amount of moisture is out of here. You want these to be dry, crispy, kind of like dry leaves on a late fall day when you haven't had any rain in a while. Type that as a kid we used to burn to get rid of them, although many cities right now you can have burn bans and it's actually legal to burn leaves in a lot of places. So I'm going to go ahead and finish grinding these down. Get them into a nice powder. Feeling around in there and make sure that they are totally dry. I don't feel any moisture at all because you don't want any molds. You can use the silicone gel packets to get rid of any moisture. That's what we're left with. I know it don't look like much, but that is a nutrient-rich superfood that you can put on yogurts, you can put it in your shakes, you can use it in soups, sprinkle it on your spaghetti, and just going to take a little bit and taste it. Yeah, I can definitely taste the herbiness that's in it. Definitely brought out the taste as opposed to tasting like a regular vegetable. So I did bring out the individual flavors. I'm going to go ahead, add it to my moringa. Just to show you what moringa actually tastes like, and since I'm the only one that's going to be eating this, I can use my finger. Moringa in a way does taste like matcha, so in a pinch you could probably use this with almond milk as a substitute to matcha. So I'm just going to go ahead and add that. Make sure I get it all in there. Go ahead, give it a good shake. Make sure it all gets mixed up in there. I'll be making more videos like this in the future, so if you want to see that, please like and subscribe, and hopefully the weather will start changing shortly where I can do some more outdoors, show you some outdoor living type stuff and get back to my hiking. So until next time, this is Scott Herview Outdoors, and we'll see you later.